temperature on my dashboard?
That's 1C or 1F?
-1.
Oh, I know. Is that Celsius or Fahrenheit?
That sound is very overpowering.
I can't hear.
Hang
Yeah,
on.
I can't hear anyone either.
Oh, that's better.
1 minute.
Time to get our groove on. We are currently 17C, by the way.
We need to do a segment called "Is Franklin Comfortable?" And we should reflect it with what the weather is outside, and Franklin would be able to comment on each night.
I'd actually be up for that.
Yeah, is Franklin comfortable?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Good evening and welcome to the Jungle Chasers show. Tonight we have a great presentation for you. We hope you're going to enjoy. It's on hurricane communications. For those who don't know amateur radio and their role in emergency communications, this will be a great intro for you. My name is Patty, and I am the regional coordinator for Southwest Missouri Skywarn. With me, I have tonight Franklin. Wave Franklin. He is the director for Greene County, Missouri Skywarn, and part of our regional team. And also with me tonight is Rodney. Wave Rodney. And Rodney is net control for both Greene County and for the regional. We also have with us a very special member of our team who keeps us in line every week. His name is Kieran. He is in law enforcement in the UK. Say hi, Kieran.
Hello, everybody.
And our special guest star and presenter tonight is also our my
Producer?
brain just went producer.
I don't even know who he is.
I
It's some
wanna
guy
be a
they picked up.
producer. Oh, okay.
He's
Steve,
not
Just
important,
a
don't
guy
worry.
lurking in the backyard.
he's usually
He's
lurking
not
in the
important.
background. We're going to pull him to the forefront tonight so that he will engage you with this great presentation. And are we ready for the kickoff on current weather?
All right, so we're going to do
Oh.
your screen.
All right. So I have to say, I'm going to let Franklin kick this one off with his.
I am Franklin Johnson, and I approve of these temperatures.
Thank you, Franklin. We are in a pattern right now of dry and moderate temperatures. Gorgeous fall weather. Some people call this Indian summer. We are 15 to 20 degrees above our normal temperatures or average temperatures for this time of year. This will continue through Sunday and possibly into Monday. We do have a front coming in that will be affecting our weather on Monday night into Tuesday, and we're going to see quite the drop back to about our average temperatures on Wednesday. We're hoping for some moisture to hit out of that. And speaking of moisture, while we are still in drought, we are not considered to be in severe drought anymore, thanks to the several inches of rain we got last week. But the drought conditions are forecast to continue into the winter months. So fingers crossed that we get some snow this year, because it's not sounding real good for the farmers for the spring's kickoff. Anyway, unless there's any questions about this gorgeous round of weather that looks to continue, I'm seeing even 61 next Thursday. we'll move on to a little bit of what's going on around the world.
My only question is, who do I contact about pre-ordering this weather for Field Day 2021?
It's
Whose
on
weather
back
do you
order.
want, though?
It's on back
Mine
order,
or
yeah.
yours?
It's on back order.
My luck.
Oh my!
I mean, the pre-order could go either way.
That's right. That's right.
We might be able to pull it off for Winterfield Day. How about that?
It could be.
Yeah, that's possible. That's very possible. I have been privy to some presentations by the Weather Service recently, and they are talking about equal chances of average to above average to below average temperatures. More likely leaning toward greater than average temperatures with average precipitation. So all forms of weather are expected this winter. They even talk about, the possibility with the setup with La Nina that we could have severe weather events through the winter. So it's going to be interesting being in the center of the country with the most changeable, statistically, most changeable weather on the continental United States. Hang on, folks, because we're in for a ride.
Yeah, changeable, that's for sure.
Changeable for sure. We have Hurricane Eta, and I believe this is the second time that we have gone this far in the Greek alphabet. I could be very wrong on that number, but it's very rare. Initially, they said that the track of this storm would be across Mexico, and now they are saying possibly it's heading to Florida when it's done down in Nicaragua. It is wreaking havoc down there. The tracks, while they're all over the place, I saw one track earlier that took it to Texas. Most of the tracks are beaded on the Florida area. So folks in the Keys and southern Florida need to be mindful of this. We're looking at Tuesday, noonish, landfall down in that area. So it looks like Cuba is also in the path of this. So folks down there, please have your hurricane preparedness ready. And with that, I don't really have anything else other than I'm with Franklin. I do approve of this weather, and I would like to seal it for a while because I'm really enjoying it.
It would be nice.
It would be very nice.
Well,
And
it.
so, Steve, have you got our Met forecast?
I do. And from the looks of things, there are no weather warnings for the next week. And, of course, the Met website really, if you're going to get rain or wind, that's pretty much what they warned about. So pretty dull on that front. The temperatures, I think maybe Franklin would approve of this more. It appears to be about 37 in London. That's Fahrenheit. And Kieran, were you thinking that if that was 37 C, they'd be baking. The warm spot on the in the place there looks like in Scotland. And now that's cooled off a little bit since I looked earlier. They were in the 50s, but now they're mid 40s. So pretty comfortable.
Nice.
Not something that would be too much of a worry. And what really surprised me when I was looking earlier was the very big lack of rainfall. And of course, that's going to take forever to load. But I didn't see any rainfall. Now, Karen can back us up on this. Sir, are you seeing any rain there?
Actually, no. For the first time in a while.
Right. Do you think it's going to be rain-free enough to see
forecast.
blue sky in London?
Oh, no, it's foggy. we're forecast quite a lot of ice and frost tomorrow.
That's what I was gonna say. They jumped the rain hurdle, but there's still the famous London fog.
Yeah, it's really fog. If I open the window right now, I can't even see 2 foot in front of me.
And it kind of looks like only in Scandinavia do they even have anything on the radar. So,
Yeah.
pretty interesting that it's rain-free throughout the. Every single time we've looked, or even times I've just looked on my own, I've never seen no rain. It was always raining somewhere. So
I sent you a screenshot of the weather here in my area, which is
let me see if I
basically
can
we're supposed to have severe fog all the way through the day, some light icing in the morning, with then just frost to follow, and then basically a lot of rain over the weekend. Friday is supposed to have some sunny spells, but mostly cloudy and foggy.
Now, I'm curious. The freezing that you're supposed to maybe have overnight, is that from actual falling freezing precipitation, or do you know, is that from freezing fog?
I believe that's from freezing water that's already on the ground.
Oh, okay.
Because due to the amount of rain we've had over the past few months, we've still got quite a lot of standing water around.
Gotcha.
Well, now it's considered freezing, right? Because isn't it 32 degrees?
zero.
Well, our
Centigrade.
lows tonight are -2.
0 centigrade is 32 degrees Fahrenheit, if I remember correctly.
Because our lows tonight is supposed to be -2, so.
So definitely it'll be below freezing.
Yeah. Now, in the world of freezing weather, having survived the Iowa winters, that's nothing. 32 is. We really didn't get excited about ice skating or playing on the river till it was -20 for 2 weeks.
Oh,
And
yeah.
By that time, you could skate on it. If it was that way for a month, you could drive light vehicles on it. No kidding.
That was
Yeah.
-20 Fahrenheit.
Yes. Yeah. Super
I have
super cold.
experienced that in Iowa. It's very dry, cold. Here it's dry as well usually in the winter, but it's amazing the difference. We get snow here. It's generally wet, not always, but we can pack it into snowballs. Up there, it's more like fine feathers. It's not sticking to itself.
And then it follows by you have this really fabulous snowstorm, and you're pumped because, man, it's time to get the snow machines out. And overnight, when the front passes through, you have a wind that comes out of Canada about 40 miles an hour, and every bit of snow that fell piles up in big, huge drifts all over the farmyard. I can remember riding one that we had back in the back field. It was in the neighborhood of about 300 yards long because it was a crest of a hill and it would just fill in. And at some points of that drift, we were more than 10 feet off the ground. And it was just a blast. The road ditches would fill up. You could build forts inside of them. And
and see, around here we start panicking if it gets down into the teens or single digits at night, and like a catastrophic weather event is anything below 0. I think the lowest I remember it ever getting down to a couple times, I think here it's gotten down to like -14 to 16. So like -20, -25 is, I think, just unfathomable for most Southwest Missouri natives. Sounds like that's not out of the realm of commonplace in Iowa most years.
pretty much all winter.
Yeah.
We had stretches of road up in town, which was a small little burg of about 460 people. The ice on the street was about an inch thick, inch and a half, and it was there from the first part of January all the way until the end of March.
So you're probably not burying very many people that first quarter of the year, are you?
No, they got machines. They set up a machine and thaw the ground out, and then they dig them up.
Yeah,
But it used to be
but
that,
used to that was an issue sometimes.
right, they just stacked the dead up outdoors and they froze solid, and when spring came, they'd put them in the ground.
Yeah.
So that's still done in Alaska. They don't.
I'm sure.
They don't. They kind of delay the burials, which if that's how things are done, you're used to it. I mean, it's just
Oh yeah.
poor old Grandpappy passed away, and he's going to have to wait till spring to get buried.
You got him around for a couple more months. You can maybe decorate him for Christmas. Have one more family get together. Is anyone ready to drag me off with the hook yet?
I can't make any sound effects, and I need to.
We
Steve,
use
I know
sound
you've
effects
got
right now.
something in there. I know you've got something in there.
I am not sure.
I'm gonna do my own benefit.
We could do this
Oh,
one.
boy.
Yeah, that's what.
Oh boy. So, the moment that everyone's been waiting for this evening is my presentation that is kind of in two parts. Not because I aimed it to be, that's where I'm at building it. And so the first part is actually a video, and the second part is a slideshow that I'll kind of work my way through. And that is the communications that take place during hurricanes. And the first part starts out with some history of how that kind of took place and what they were faced with 100 years ago. And it's odd because I've spent a lot of time around this kind of study, and it's like, man, that's 110 years ago that they did these things, and it's like it doesn't seem like that is how it could be, but there it is. But anyway, unless anybody has any weather questions before we go into it, we'll kick her off.
Nope, it's all yours.
All right, here we go. Hello, my name is Steve, and my call sign is KA0SPM. I'm a licensed amateur radio operator from the U.S., and part of the activities I engage in is hurricane assistance via amateur radio. It might come as a surprise that a lot of the communications that are a part of a hurricane coming ashore is of a volunteer basis. Volunteers who spend their own money and time to help the Weather Service of the United States and state emergency responders with real-time reports of weather and life and safety concerns. These volunteers are also a part of our own communities across the United States, from the very young to more mature radio enthusiasts, male and female. They're a very diverse group. Amateur radio is an international interest that crosses all boundaries. Many of these radio amateurs also share an interest in the weather. Many have gone on to careers in weather forecasting, and some have discovered amateur radio after they've become involved with the weather. This is not a new phenomenon. Radio amateurs have been assisting with communications since radio has existed. After the discovery of radio waves in the 1890s, amateurs have been tinkering with radio communications. Most of the radio technology we have today is a product of radio amateurs discovering the next new thing. It wasn't until 1904 when there began to be professional radio people who were aboard ships. They were charged with passing message traffic from ship to shore, but they also passed traffic about the weather they encountered. They were, in essence, the first hurricane hunters. Before that time, the reporting of large storms at sea were only reported when they hit populated areas. Our weather service of the day had mostly been reporters of the weather. They could now predict a storm, to an extent. This is the beginnings of the ability to reduce the loss of life and property due to hurricanes. The amateur radio service has evolved a lot since the turn of the 20th century. We've survived 2 world wars that ended the amateur radio service during those wars. We served the servicemen and women during the Korean conflict and Vietnam. Much of the skills in reporting via radio were developed during those hard times of war. We also developed better radios that made it possible for mobile reporting. some things do stay the same. Shortwave radio has provided a good method of communicating at a long distance. Since amateurs are using shortwave to communicate, we are the first responders when all other forms of communication fail. Okay, so that's part one. And I think, I'm not sure that Rodney ever got to go, but we did a special event in Branson for the Titanic. And
Yeah.
the professional radio people that they put aboard ships were the radio operators from the Titanic, and many other ships, and it was really kind of a big deal, sort of like today, where we have aircraft flying over the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean that are reporting weather automatically, that assists in prediction of the weather. And these are all things that the professionals do, but surprisingly enough, they rely a lot on amateur communications. So the National Weather Service, National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida, and this is their symbol and call sign, WX4NHC. They have a radio station for the purposes of communicating with maritime traffic. We also have communications going on in the United States, in the continental United States, where we pass message traffic. Now, what is that message traffic? Well, the message traffic is that we have, reported winds. Surprisingly enough, and it surprised me, honestly, the number of tornadoes that occur on land as a result of a hurricane. I don't remember, Patty, you might be able to be able to help me on this one, but I remember Jim working hurricanes in Mississippi and Alabama, and there were 15 or 20 of them going at the same time because of a hurricane coming ashore. And I'm sure you remember it because we were listening on the Echolink side of it.
Oh, right, right. Well, and the amazing thing is you have your local Aries groups and Races groups that have their nets. You have the national net that runs on two different frequencies, usually 20 and 40, as long as the
Okay,
bands support it.
We'll get there.
And okay, and Echolink,
We're-
VoIP.
We're going to
So I'll
detail
let you
that,
go
but
ahead.
if you remember that time, as I do, that was
Yeah.
quite
Oh,
a
yeah.
quite an experience, at least for me, to see that kind of thing taking place, and it was really dramatic. I mean, it was a dramatic amount of tornadoes. But this is the offices here at the National Hurricane Center in Miami. I'm certain that most of the time they have nice weather. Now, I was unable to get mostly new pictures, and this may not be representative of the staff, and definitely not representative of the station. But at least it's some historical pictures, and these are some of the guys that monitor the station. And as you can tell by the CRT monitors, this has got to be an old picture. So I'm certain that they have updated that quite a bit. They are there to take reports, and they take them from ships at sea. And this may be more new. That's their QSL card. So if you make a contact with them, you can get a QSL card, or if you visit the station. So these are the agencies that work with the National Hurricane Center. Of course, our group is Skywarn. Skywarn has a lot of groups just like us. They're county groups, or maybe they're a regional group that report weather. Quite often they do that reporting as a result of smaller storms, such as thunderstorms or tornadoes and such. But when hurricanes come ashore, they are the guys that are on the ground doing communications. ARES, Amateur Radio Emergency Service, and RACES are also a part of this. I'm sure if you're an amateur operator, if you've been around a little bit, you've heard of ARES. They generally go by county, and they have a countywide group, and they're charged with providing the emergency communications. Surprisingly enough, in our part of the world, mostly tornado damage, the ARES groups provide the search and rescue groups with communications. And it's not probably primary communications, it's usually secondary, but they always have some kind of a presence in any kind of a small scale. And I say small scale, when the tornado hit Joplin, that was huge for us. But in the big picture, it's not a big, huge event like a hurricane that can take out many hundreds of miles of communications. RACES tends to be groups that are organized to be called upon by the governor. They were originally civil defense, and when we have a big storm that wipes out a lot of stuff, that's a civil defense emergency. So they also are charged with doing roughly the same thing that ARES does. They keep tabs on keeping the communications channels open. Salvation Army also does some emergency services work. Having not spent a lot of time around those guys, I don't believe that they are such a force as ARES or RACES, but they will move into, I know that they moved into the Joplin tornado area. They always roll when it comes to a hurricane, so their job is to provide these communications where they wouldn't otherwise have it. And this is the part, Patty, that you kind of jumped the gun on me. Amateur Packet Reporting System, APRS. Most of us are aware that there's a VHF frequency, 144.390. That varies through the world, but largely in the continental United States, that's what we use. There is also an HF frequency. And this is the part where if you are in an area that has no coverage, you can locate yourself through APRS. And what happens is you send a burst of data through 30 meters, and it's picked up through the ionosphere at another station quite remote, and it will nail down your position. So if you're out in the middle of the ocean and you need to let people know where you are, that is something that's done. It's also capable of sending small messages, not even a half a tweet.
Question.
Sure.
The 30-meter APRS, does that also show up on APRS.FI?
I have never tested it, but I believe it does.
Okay.
So
it would make sense that it did, but I was just curious.
Right. The interesting thing there is that there is a APRS digipeater on the International Space Station. So 145.825, you can ping your position through that, and there is a separate website that will allow you to see where you're at. So interesting there is that if you don't have propagation on 30 meters, you can actually get your position out. One of the, and this probably has nothing to do with hurricanes, but there was a guy that does traveling. It's kind of sort of his job. Was in the middle of the outback in Australia, and he could ping his position from the ISS, and he did that. He just kept sending out a ping every minute or two, and it transferred through that. There are commercial equivalents to it, but if you're an amateur and want to do it, that's how it's done. So, the Echolink has become a big deal. And what really, I guess, in my world, I'm thinking, well, you get a big storm like that, all of the internet and stuff's going down. Well, that's not always the case. Um, it generally will take out areas of it, and those areas get jumped over by the data connections that we build when that happens. But we can get into a repeater that gets us into Echolink. Um, there's no problems of hearing it. It's always there. Usually the only problem is when we have a big hurricane, it's hard to get a slot into it because it's so busy. But these are the Echolink IRLP nodes. So it's WX-Talk and VKMCOM is the alternate, and then IRLP node 9219, 9508, or 9123. So,
And one really cool thing about this, I'm sorry, I've been kind of slightly tired all day, so if I spaced out for a second and you covered it, I do apologize. But the cool thing about Echolink is not only can you do that on your radios or even on the computer. If you've got a smartphone, they have apps for both iOS and Android, and I'm assuming any other smartphone OS that there might be out there, so you can actually do them on your tablet and your phone as well.
right, yeah. It does make it so more people can become involved in relaying communications.
Yeah.
And of course, the traditional HF frequencies 14325 on 20 meters. We've had several this year that I was picking up Miami that they were 20 over. Perfect copy if I needed to be a relay station to another station out in the Gulf that they could not hear. I was in the perfect place for it. So this is the part where amateurs just like ourselves here in the middle of the world, middle of the United States, we don't really get much for hurricanes, but we do provide a relay service to someone that might be in trouble in the Gulf of Mexico in a boat. And nowadays most boats have amateur radios on board, so it's just easier to do the marine channels on one of them than it is to try to buy a expensive marine only radio. 40 meters.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, a lot of the actual marine radios that are dedicated for that, or at least the ones I've seen, aren't a lot of them VHF and UHF only?
Well, you can purchase a HF marine band radio.
Yeah. I'm sure that would be more expensive, though.
Much more expensive.
Yeah.
It kind of boggles the mind the price that you pay for those, and of course they're made by companies like Motorola and stuff that we generally wouldn't see as HF radios, but they do. So
Well, they're geared toward the commercial end,
They are.
the cruise lines and that kind of thing, professional fishermen. So yeah, it serves to reason that they would be a commercial grade radio.
Oh,
a kind of interesting 40 meter side 7268 is not just a hurricane watch net. That frequency is used by the waterway net, which if you have any experience in Florida, the intercoastal waterway is kind of a big deal down there because, and maybe a little backstory on that one, the intercoastal waterway was built in World War II to prevent ships from having to travel in the open ocean, making them targets for submarines. And so during that time frame, they used radio communications, not amateur, but professional versions, and they just carried that on into amateur. So they do the hurricane stuff, which, a lot of the good reports come from sailors, come from the maritime side, and periodically, and a frequency that I did not include in this, but 14300, which is the Maritime Mobile Service Net, you will hear ships non-amateur, commercial ships out there reporting weather, you will also hear aviation. So you may have an aircraft that's flying, and they'll make reports into the 14300 or 14325. But 40, that's kind of a big one for the boats. They can communicate all over Florida and other states very easily, very handily, and generally works real well. Don't know a lot about the Caribbean net. You have to understand that in the States, 80 meters is kind of covered up, especially when there's traffic with a lot of just folks just on there chatting. So it's kind of a tough sell. And in the Caribbean, you generally don't hear them in the middle part of the country. So those guys, they're going to be covering, which is the Greater and Lesser Antilles, Cuba, all the way down to Grenada. That's their thing. So now this is a little sprinkling of what's out there. Every single state that is a coastal state has their own ARES emergency net. They generally have an emergency traffic handling net. You have to look at the state's ARES listings to see where they are. When it was Hurricane Ike came ashore, I was able to provide assistance to the Weather Service in Lake Charles via the Weather Service in Fort Worth. And basically, I read tornado warnings over HF, which I'd never done that ever. That was kind of cool. But I was just in the right place at the right time, and any amateur can do this. I mean, it's not, if you have the general class license, you're in the right place, and you can provide assistance. They'll certainly take it. So with my video, you saw the antiques. This is the new one, and Rodney, I think that's your radio, isn't it?
Well, it was my radio. This was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
This was the 950 that I had.
Right. And I thought that was kind of a cool picture. That's actually a reflection, but you can see our antennas on the car. This is the club's, one of our HF beams. These things were always designed to be an emergency communications platform, but we always have used them for field day and other special events.
Well, very similar requirements, something that's independent, has its own infrastructure, can be put up relatively quickly, about an hour, and then you're on the air.
Right. And because it is a beam, we've got, the ability to provide a stronger signal in a direction. So
Yeah.
If it comes down to it and we have to provide that kind of wide-scale emergency communications, it's there. It's ready to go. So, and lastly, down to our local groups, Greene County Skywarn, we provide that emergency communications, but we do more so about local weather conditions. And, of course, the agency that supports us, Southwest Missouri Amateur Radio Club, and you can visit their website, smarc.org. And this is the part where I say, if you would like to donate to the club, for us, it's all in that pot together. So all of us are members, and those things provide. There's a link there to do so. So this is a group much larger than ourselves appreciates that a bunch, because the bottom line is we provide these communication technologies out of our own pockets. We're not getting government grants to do it. The government isn't supervising it. They provide a license, and lately they wish that we paid for that license in addition to buying our radios. And so, you know, um, if you got a couple extra bucks to throw our way, we will absolutely take it. So, I want to anyone who does that, thank you. Now we serve the United States National Weather Service, and I know you're thinking, well, gosh, those guys are a government agency. They got money, right? They got radars. No, they do, but a radar can only see so much. So people have to be on the ground. When they think they see something, they need us out there. They need us looking. And that's people like ourselves and others that aren't on the show tonight. We go out there. We've been trained to do so, and we report back. And the National Weather Service office in Springfield has an amateur station in it, both VHF and HF. Although HF doesn't get pulled out very much, we've done a couple of Skywarn appreciation events there. But if they have to, they can communicate via HF to, probably easily virtually any weather service station in the United States. The VHF side, not so much, but they can communicate with their spotters. So, these are the people that, when they ask for us to do, we do. We aren't the ones coming up with the ideas. They're the ones saying, oh, hey, it'd be really great if you could provide this information or provide that information. The latest thing has been pictures. Everybody has a cell phone mostly. Take a picture, send it to the Weather Service. And so
and
we do that.
If I might chime in here,
Sure.
Because of COVID and the government, it still has their employees pretty locked down. They are not doing the surveys that they used to. I'm getting ready to collaborate actually with the Weather Service to do a joint presentation for spotters on what they're needing for assistance in surveying damage. So that's something to be excited. We may redo it here, or I may just point the way for where that will be parked on YouTube. But it's important that they get that information because they can't get the feet on the ground anymore. They're working 2 people to the office, and most of them are working from home. So it's ultimately important that we're out there, not just for the weather as it comes through for the ground truth, but for the damage reports afterwards so they know what has been dealt with. That's 2-part. One, that they know to continue a warning downstream or know when something has reached warning criteria, which they're very good about guesstimating that from the radar. But to have that ground truth is invaluable to just confirm what they're seeing. And then the damage reports for, were we on target with this? What was it that went through? Was it a tornado? Was it a downburst? That kind of thing. So that is in the works and something to look forward to.
Definitely.
Right. So, and that's pretty much the conclusion of what I have to give to us tonight. The the honest fact is, my world. I'm the guy that provides the technical support. I'm not. I do spot, but I no longer do so much in the net control side. But we got folks
He's our
out there.
storm killer.
Well, actually, not anymore. I used to be. I go out there now, and it's like, holy cow.
And if Steve and I go out on a lightning date, look out, it will go severe. It's just about guaranteed. This is just going to be a great little summer lightning storm. Let's go.
Yeah, right.
I can remember running the net from the car over one of those. Or two. Two.
But, most most all of this stuff happens because folks like ourselves do that, and whether it's a hurricane, affecting one or two states or more, um, we've kind of been there for that. We've been there for the little monster tornadoes that's blown cities apart, um, and that's kind of what we do. And it's not. I don't think it's like we're giving up of ourselves to do this. It's something we all love to do. We enjoy it,
Yeah.
and yes, we do spend our own money to get things, but that's what we do. That's our thing. We've turned a hobby into something that benefits people, and it's cool. It's a good thing. So, anybody got any questions? And I don't see any in the chat. So,
Yeah, I've been watching the chat room. I don't see any questions there right now.
anyway, I think that's the conclusion of my presentation. So we can move on to what everybody's waiting for tonight, of course. The 5-minute rant. Let me see if I can rant it up.
Light that rant up.
Yeah. I'm gonna start,
Okay.
and you would think I'd be ranting about politics, and I would. But since decorum will not allow, the rant goes like this. Never mind. Over to you, Patty.
Right. That was quick.
That was good. That was
That was
good.
the 5-second rant.
I've got a
So-
word that I cannot use on the air, and I'm going to keep it to myself.
Oh, I'm sure you'll let us know later.
Yeah.
Light it up with the conspiracy theory. My rant is going to go in another dark place that we don't say the word here, but there is an illness that is affecting the country, and Kieran, if I've heard correct, you're back in lockdown for it. Here they're cautiously optimistic, but we've got the flu season kicking in, and honestly, I have more friends right now who are ill with this virus than I have had through the entire time that this virus has been in this country. And several are seriously ill. And these are people that are taking care, that are taking all the precautions. And as we sequester ourselves in with the colder temperatures and we're in a closed space for longer periods of time with people, this is going to be a trend, and it's going to be an upward trend. So all I can really say here is that not enough people are taking it seriously. I still see people in stores and other businesses not wearing masks, not using hand sanitizers, etc. And it's necessary. It at least slows the spread. It doesn't stop the spread for sure. Our masks just aren't designed like the filters they use in, say, an automobile paint booth. But short of that, so that we can communicate with each other, we do have means of slowing the spread, and we need to do that. And if you're sick, don't go out. That's the reason that my friends are ill right now, is they've been around people who are ill and knew it, or had confirmation that they were supposed to be isolating at home and chose to ignore it. And I've got one sitting in the ER right now who is extremely ill, and another who just came off the ventilator. and others that I know that are sick. So do what you can and at least be mindful of your fellow human, a little less into it for yourself, because that's what humans do. We care about other people and we should show that we do. That's my rant.
That's a good rant. You know, I got a solution to the mask thing.
What's that?
I don't go any place I need to have one.
Well, pray for me because I keep going in doctor's offices here lately. This is not fun. I don't like to go where people are sick. Um, you know, one was a physical, and one I had to go back to get my labs drawn because I wasn't fasting 5 hours after I got up. Tomorrow I go in for tests, and that's the biggie. I'm going to be paranoid as heck. So, um, anyway.
I just avoid it. I mean, I had stuff to do today. I went to the gas station and I was outdoors. You don't need a mask for outdoors. And I went to get us dinner and it was drive-through. And then I went home because, you know,
About the only shopping we do indoors is our groceries.
yeah.
Because the place that we go for our groceries doesn't, well, for our shorter term items, doesn't have curbside yet.
Yeah, but even then, the people that work there, we've been shopping there every week mostly, and we're exposed to them. We've been exposed to them the whole time. So whatever they got, we got.
Right.
So
But
we're
they're
limiting
very
our
good about-
exposure.
They're very good about being mindful and taking those precautions there too, with maybe one exception, and I catch him with his mask slid down when he's talking, but
He's
and
almost
he's in that
family.
he's almost family. This is true. Um, but
Wish I could say the same about my clients.
Yeah, and see, now you're in a better, much worse place, and I would say take every precaution you can because, you know, you just don't know. But
they're
Hey.
also getting ready to move us into a bigger office, but there will be no ventilation in there. There will be no chance for air exchange other than when people come and go. Much more client interaction as we go to the bathrooms because there are several different agencies within the same building. Um, so, yeah, I'm not real pleased about the move, but it is what it is, and it starts Monday. So, I just hope that I did have it in February and I'm immune. But anyway.
How do you have a large group of people without ventilation?
How can you move a call center into a box and expect us to stay healthy? I just don't know.
That's
They're
And, hey,
saying
you
the
can't.
office they're putting more of us in a room and we're supposed to be farther apart, but there's no window, not a window one in this office, and one door that you have to use an ID badge to get in and out of, kind of like government lockdown. And yeah. So, and it's a not very good neighborhood. So walking around, I typically, even though we're not in a great neighborhood now, will take several trips outside during my work shift to stretch my legs because I work 12 hours. I can't just sit that whole time.
yeah.
And I'll walk around the parking lot. I wouldn't dare do that where we're moving to, in spite of what the powers that be say, how much safer it is. The gunshots decry foul on that one.
I'll later on have to chit chat with you about that.
So, anyway, yeah. But
Well,
that's
you're
not what my rant was.
Wow. So
Hey,
let's
we
go
want-
to Kieran for his rant.
I was gonna say because my one pretty much leads on from what Passy was saying. It's just mine's a little bit different because obviously my job you really can't avoid people. You kind of have to dive straight in there, and unfortunately, it is people that are just not adhering to the rules. They're just not adhering to any advice. They're not adhering to any sense of even common sense. If you really want my opinion, um, they don't use masks. They don't use half of them don't even have good hygiene. Let's be honest. Um, and they just they go into shops like that. They pick things up. They transfer the disease to other people. And I mean, recently we nabbed a shoplifter, and in case of trying to get away, he actually spat at three of our officers, and now they're currently in hospital
Could that be
because of
assault?
the disease.
I'd think so.
It's assault on a police officer, but we are trying to get them done for deadly assault, which means he assaulted them with the intent to do harm.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I remember, I think it was back in the 90s, there was somewhere, I can't remember if it was a state prison or it may have been like a county jail, a HIV positive inmate spat in the face of a guard, and they charged him with either attempted manslaughter or attempted murder because he knowingly had a highly contagious disease and
Yeah.
he spat in their eye. So I would think at the very least it would at least be simple assault, if not aggravated assault, or like what you're talking about, Kieran.
It's definitely a difficult one because obviously he knows he had the positive test 2 weeks prior to this incident happening, so he knew that he had it, but just decided that he was going to use that as a weapon against us.
Wow.
And for us, in the moment, we don't really know about all of this stuff. We don't know if he's got it, if he hasn't, or whatever. So we try and take our precautions as much as we possibly can, but there's only a certain amount that we can do to keep ourselves safe. And because, unfortunately, we are in a profession that, well, we're just not very much liked, for most people. Law-abiding people are different, but most of the people that we deal with are not law-abiding. So they have no respect for us. So, they'll do anything just to get away from us. And unfortunately, if that means weaponizing a deadly disease, then they will do it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are using the lockdown over here as a chance to just go rabid. Because they know that people are going to be indoors or at work, they're taking the opportunity, and the car thefts have gone through the roof up here. We've had late vehicles being stolen left, right, and centre. And it's so difficult for us to keep track of all the lockdown rules, the normal police calls that we get called domestics, and all that lot. The uprising car thefts, the mental health calls that we get called out to now because of all of the lockdowns and everything that's happened. A lot of people are having issues with that, and then they take it out on family members or other people that are around. And to be honest, it's just getting harder and harder. And we need people to actually take on board the advice and take the precautions, because not only does it keep them safe and keep everyone else safe, it makes fire, police, ambulances jobs so much easier. And then it doesn't overwhelm hospitals, and everything can keep moving a lot easier. But because nobody's adhering to any of the rules, it's our cases have gone from quite low to now higher than they were back at the start.
So, Kieran, I have a question for you. And
Mhm.
this was a discussion that Patty and I had a day or so ago. And you've heard the term domestic housewife. I bet you have met the feral housewives.
We have met quite a few of them.
Is that the kind of housewife that goes?
I
You always know when you hit one of them because they actually throw something through the window at you.
Oh.
I went to one about a month ago, and I don't know what, I can't remember what the actual call was, but I knocked on the door, and through the window of the door came through an iron.
Whoa.
And I was just sat there like, okay.
was she
I'm glad I
angry?
wasn't standing there.
Was she angry?
You
Just
know,
a
this
tad.
is something like the Western
was
where you
steamed.
show up at the door and they shoot the shotgun through the window next to it before they ask who's there.
Shoot first,
Which is
ask questions
why
later.
in training
Eh.
we are never taught. Once we knock on the door, we are trained not to stand in front of that door,
Yeah.
just in case there is somebody behind it with a firearm or a knife, or we don't know what they've got.
So I guess,
So we.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. My question is, was she throwing the iron at you or someone else and missed?
Oh no, she was throwing it at us.
A true
The
feral
worst thing was, is
housewife.
she is the
Yeah,
one that
she
actually called
she
us.
was steamed because she was throwing iron at you.
And she's the one that called you.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, at least it sounds like she's a little bit more accurate aim than a stormtrooper.
Just a tad.
You know, I just got to inject a humorous light moment to bring up the room. There's this wonderful moment at the beginning of the final season of the final episode of the first season of The Mandalorian, where these two stormtrooper scouts are just waiting around outside of town, and there's like a rock, and one of them takes out his little blaster and starts shooting at it and can't hit it to save his life, and the other one looks at him like, you moron, gets his little gun out, he starts shooting at it, and he's missing even worse than the first guy. So it just goes to show you that, yes, it's true, stormtroopers cannot hit the broadside of a barn with a blaster.
Yep. Although this woman can hit a little tiny window from the clear across the room.
Of course. You know, those are the situations where, they're Annie Oakley.
Don't waste a good iron.
You never know, you might need to
Make
make
it
a
count.
Christmas with it.
Yeah.
Make it count. Same with the fry pans. Make it count.
Oh, don't get me started on frying pans.
Fry pans, that's sausage and eggs right there. Don't,
Oh
you don't
no,
want to mess
don't
with
get me
that.
started on frying pans.
I bet you've got some good stories.
Oh yes. I think the one that always comes to mind though, and it was because it was just so unexpected, was I actually told Rodney about this. That there was a broken down vehicle. I pulled up behind it because it was on a busy road with my blue lights on. I went up to make sure he was all right, and it turned out that he had a flat tire. So, and the spare was flat. So I offered him to take him down to the petrol station to go and fill the spare tire up with air so we could change the tire so we can get back on the road. And all agreed. He got the spare tire in the back of the car. I turned around to head back to the car, And at which point I realised that he has a baseball bat in his hand. And he actually turned around and hit me straight in the arm with the baseball bat. And I managed to back away from him fairly quickly. Another officer that happened to be driving by at the time saw this, flipped around, and by the time he came back, I had actually managed to get my taser and taser him. Because at this point, I feel that he's gonna, try and kill me with this baseball bat. And I just couldn't believe it, because
Oh my.
what is Rodney laughing at?
Did you?
Hear the sound effects?
Did
I mean, it's
Rodney
not
get
funny
his
you
sound
got
effects
hit.
working?
It was funny that he made sound effects, adding to the story. I was not laughing that you got hit. I'm just saying, Steve, you got to stop that. You're gonna get me in trouble.
It's
So-
just, as I was saying it, he starts bursting out in laughter. I'm like, oh, jeez.
Are you
I
hearing
know
it?
where I stand.
I mean,
That's what I'm sitting there thinking, man, if somebody does that shit to me, that's it.
Well,
All
and
bets
see,
are
that's
off.
why I think a lot of police departments or law enforcement agencies are doing this now. I know Springfield's done this for at least several years now. A lot of times, particularly if it's late at night, particularly if it's in a bad area of town, someone calls in a traffic stop. Within 2 or 3 minutes, you're liable to have 1 or 2, sometimes 3 other units that are in the area nearby that are not on a call will show up just in case something happens.
Yeah.
It surprised me because it was in the middle of the day, and so it's my local area, so it's not a bad area at all.
But
And-
apparently he was.
Oh yeah, well it actually turned out that after it was all said and done, I didn't know this at the time, but the guy had 4 criminal warrants out for his arrest.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
that sounds like a good reason to hit a cop with a baseball bat, right?
Yeah.
Again, just keep hitting him. So,
Oh, he didn't like the taser.
I bet
Oh, I
not.
bet not.
I bet not.
We had a little altercation in front of our house several years ago, and what got my attention was somebody just laid on the horn. Just brrr. And I went
Yeah.
outside, and from my angle, from the front porch, some dude was beating up somebody inside of a pickup. Beating the crap out of him. And it's like it went out of gear and rolled off into the ditch across the road.
Oh,
Well, then I saw that it was a woman he was beating.
ugh.
So I called 911. I got some guy beating the crap out of a woman in a pickup right across the road from me. I mean, they showed up in minutes. They were right here.
He was still beating on her when they showed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he saw
It
it.
was bad. It was
You
bad.
know what is another good way to get a cop out really, really quick?
I'm going to shoot him.
I have a gun and I know how to use it.
Right. Well,
Oh, no, sir, please don't do that. And I'm like, well, if they step on my property, I'm shooting them. Oh, no, sir, we'll have an officer out there right away. Like
well, the
45 seconds later.
cop got there, went to the driver's side door, jerked the guy out, and cuffed him right there, and threw him in the ditch under the pickup in the back. And got her help because there was an ambulance involved. And when they were done with that, they picked him up by the cuffs. He was laying head down. They picked him up by the cuffs and lifted him up off the ground. And I'm like, boy, that guy got lucky. Other than there was me civilian watching.
One of
And
the neighbors had to go get her clothes because the guy had ripped them off of her.
Oh,
Right.
I'm sorry. I started laughing about that. I thought you meant this was a spectator and she had came out before she put clothes on. Then you say, no, this was the woman. And I'm like, oh, Franklin, don't laugh at that.
But you know, if that cop would have decided to, like take care of things a little bit, I wouldn't have seen a thing. Especially knowing that I showed up in court as a witness and they dismissed the case because she didn't have to testify against him. She called me a couple of times before, oh, he changed, he's better.
She showed
And I'm
up
like,
here at the house,
oh, really?
begging you not to go to court.
See, that's what
You
I
know,
was wondering.
interfering with the case.
I was like, hopefully she wasn't one of these women that gets nearly beat to death and then 3 days later, oh, he's a great guy. He didn't mean it. He'll never
Yeah.
do it again.
It's
Please
exactly
don't
what
try
she
it
said.
again."
She was.
Exactly what she
You
said.
see,
And
the
I'm
good
like,
thing,
ugh.
the good thing about the law over here means if we see something, like as the police turned up before, he stopped, he was still in the process of doing it when we arrive, we don't have to have a witness or a victim.
Yeah.
Because
They have that rule here now.
because we witnessed it, we can then charge them with the crime.
And I
without-
think it's really changed with domestic abuse being so high anymore over here. Of course, they can't. If you're legally married, they can't force you to testify against them, but they don't require you to press charges. The city or the local law enforcement agency, they can press their own charges in certain circumstances like that. And I just think it's because the last, probably 15, 20 years or so, domestic abuse cases have just skyrocketed so much.
Well, if that police officer, and it was only one, there wasn't a backup. Well, until later on there was a backup. But if he'd have beat the crap out of that guy, and I think he deserved what he got just picking him up by the cuffs, because it twisted his arms way back.
I bet.
He was not a happy boy, and it was just like, what? Walked in there, and I'm like, I'm gonna tell what I seen, and she's like, they're like, nope, case is dismissed. I'm like, really?
I kind of almost would have been like, Your Honor, at the moment that Mr. Jones says that Officer Smith abused him, I was flat on the ground. I slipped on some wet grass and fell. I didn't see a thing as I was getting up.
Oh, I had a squirrel run across in front. Something
Yeah.
I didn't see. I don't know.
Shiny object drew my attention.
A meteorite. I was temporarily blinded. Whoops.
It's the old Men in Black. Some light flashed through, reflected off of a pan through some swamp gas. I don't remember what happened for the next 30 minutes of my life.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but Steve just reminded me of something really funny.
What's that?
It was the really most stupidest excuse I've ever heard to try and get off a speeding ticket. Literally, somebody actually stated that they saw a meteor in the sky, and it forced them to drive 150 mile an hour.
Was he trying to race it down the sky?
You've never heard of those meteorite tractor beams that make you go really, really fast?
Funnily enough, no.
Dude.
They're everywhere.
Sometime we're going to expect you to do a presentation on all the stuff all the excuses that people have used to try to get out of doing something wrong.
Are we gonna have a 5-hour?
No, you're going to
special
just
session at one point.
you're just going to have to do highlights. We got to keep it to about 20 minutes.
Head
That
down
wouldn't
from
even be half
200.
of them then.
Rodney,
Would
I
this be
know that
Oh,
you
okay, go ahead.
Rodney, I know that you have a rant. And it in my betting, it will involve iPhones.
Again, it's
Probably
professional.
the iPhone I'm talking to you on.
Forgot what
Oh.
camera I'm on.
Oh,
Do you want me to cover that rant for you? Because I can do it.
I mean, it just comes down to this. Apple has bad timing. Especially when we've got special events that we've planned for quite some time, and Apple still takes precedence because obviously it's my job. So I'm not going to get to come to boot camp. I will plan on coming to Fire and Frequency, which I'm excited about that, but I'm not going to be able to be part of the other because it's a mandatory weekend with the Apple launch. So it is what it is.
But it's not you standing in the store selling phones to customers. Right?
Well, I mean, it's pre-order. So, I mean, at that point, you want to kind of get the ball rolling so that when the phone comes in, you're ready to go. You just, crank it out. Hey, your
Right.
phone's here. Get it.
Right, but
So Rodney can kind of be Oprah. Can be kind of like, and you get an iPhone, and you get an iPhone, and you get an iPhone.
but you're not going to have is that Saturday on the floor selling store thing, or are they just going through all the crap they're going to do to sell the phone?
No, we're actually, tomorrow is the first day of the pre-order. So,
Right.
we'll be
It's just they have to pre-order it. They can't just walk in and get a phone. You have to pay for it, and in like a week or two, it'll come in.
It'll be there probably in the next following week. Yeah, typically. What they usually say is if you pre-order it, then it'll usually get there before it actually launches in the store. But a lot of our demand, or I should say, the amount of phones we get is based on how many pre-orders we get. So we want to get as many pre-orders as we can.
To get more stock.
Exactly.
Now, quick question I was wondering, because you said something that made me think of something that I know, having pre-ordered like video games and stuff in the past. If their pre-ordered phone does come in before the official release date in the store, can they go ahead and get it, or do you have to hold it till that release date?
I have to hold it till that release date.
That's why I was kind of wondering, because
But
usually
they're
like,
guaranteed a phone.
yeah,
Because a lot of times people will wait outside and all this other stuff, come in and go, you guys have any phones left? Well, yeah. Happen to be
I was wondering, because very few times have I ever pre-ordered something and like it come in a day or two early. Have they been able to say, oh yeah, you can go ahead and come in and get it? It's usually, oh no, we can't let any of these go out the door until a minute after midnight on the day of the release.
actually with Apple, you're not allowed to sell anything before 8 o'clock in the morning,
Gotcha.
Local time or
local time.
Ooh.
You can't
I
even
just got a
put it on.
question
You
for you
can't even
right now.
put it on an order. You cannot even show any indication that it's even been rung out.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
just their rules. So
I got a
And-
question
Oh,
for
go
you,
ahead.
Rodney. How many times have you had fights broken out on the storefront for the new iPhone? Because over here, that is so common. Every time we get an iPhone release, our call rate goes shooting up.
Well, to be honest with you, I have not experienced that on the type of work I'm doing now. And when I was in corporate, that was more so. I mean, we were sitting out on the side of the parking lot taking pre-orders, and we were having, or not pre-order, but people were like basically saying, this is what I want, this is what I have. Oh, by the way, we don't have that. Are you kidding me? I waited in line for blah blah blah, and you don't have this. And I mean,
AT&T's
yeah,
right down the
sorry about
road.
you guys are crazy. I'm going to blankety blank. Okay, That's fine. Let's see if they have the same phone you're looking for. It's just one of those things. It's all a matter of demand. They only send so many phones. I mean, in Apple Smart, they create such a high demand that then they're backed up for 2 months at a time.
Oh yeah.
They know what they're doing.
They also have the demand there for their phone.
You would enjoy it on the phone. I learned a whole new language of cuss words.
This is reminding me of in junior year, my first year of taking French class, when we discovered the teacher's little book of French curse words in her desk drawer.
Well, let me just put it like this. We were not technically supposed to hang up on anybody.
That was, or at least I know on the EXB side, that was one thing they told us if they get excessive with, we could hang up on.
Well, my rule of thumb was, and I get that there are some people that use a different kind of language than most of us do in common day. I talked to a couple of gunnery sergeants from the Marine Corps who cussing was just a part of their language. I mean, that was just the way it was, and I had no problem with that. Mm-hmm. You cuss me, I'm done. An immediate. I had some dude call me from Philadelphia, an iPhone, on an iPhone release, and we told him we cannot sell that over the phone. He went into a tirade, called me blankety blank blank, not going to fill in the names, and I went, goodbye, click. Oh, man, people are like, you can't do that. I'm like, oh, yeah? Do you want me to say the names that he was calling me?
During training, Rick pretty much told us if they use excessive language, if they're being abusive, if they threaten your life, or if they threaten to sue. Basically, we could say, that's your prerogative. If they press the sue button a second time, we were basically to say, okay, I have to end this call now. Any further communications you need to take up with the Best Buy legal department, and click.
Oh, yeah. I love that one. Well, my lawyer will be getting a hold of you. And I said, well, I tell you what, our team of lawyers will be enjoying that call.
Our 27 lawyers will look forward to your one lawyer's phone call. Unfortunately, I have to disconnect this call now, but I hope you have a super sparkly rest of your day.
Yeah.
Super sparkly.
That's a term my uncle uses all the time, and it's kind of become a family meme, a vocal family meme, if you will.
Super sparkly?
Yeah, have a super sparkly day.
The amount of times we get pulled the Sue card is amazing.
I'll have your job. Buddy, you don't want my job.
You breathed on my shoulder. I'm suing.
Yep, that's pretty much it.
Nope, the best one ever. You've ruined Christmas. You wouldn't believe how many times I've ruined Christmas.
No, I'm sorry, ma'am. Commercialism's ruined Christmas, not me.
Okay, Franklin, it's your turn.
I got one more. No, ma'am. I'm sorry. The fact that your version of Santa Claus does not have the financial wherewithal to buy your children anything that they want under the sun. That's what's ruining Christmas. Don't think about that.
Brilliant.
If I wanted to be snotty.
Now. Supposed to be having a rant here.
I know. I've got a small one. I'm not going to drag it out. It's kind of goes along the lines of Steve, Patty, and Kieran a bit. I'm just going to say to people, I'm the first one who believes in personal freedoms and liberties and rights, but yours doesn't trump mine or anyone else's. There are certain things that we do for the common good that whereas it might put a temporary small curtailment on what you would like to do, it's not permanent, it's temporary, it's so that everyone can get through tough times and difficult situations. So suck it up and just give in just a tiny little bit so that everyone can make it through it. And when everything's over, we'll go back to, you want to put anchovies and habaneros with, atomic explosion sauce on your pizza, fine. But for right now, just don't, please. That's my rant.
That was a
Okay.
good one.
Okay. Yeah. I was gonna say, you were gonna make it short. I thought, well, here's 20 minutes. But
I know, because 20 minutes is short for me.
that was 2 minutes.
That's my typical short
Yeah.
form. It's about 15 to 20 minutes.
That wasn't even 2 minutes, actually. Anyway.
I know.
I was gonna say, I think my one was longer.
I don't
Oh.
want to piss anyone off. I'm just kind of like, everyone just cool your jets a little bit.
I do need to return to mine just for a few seconds.
So in amateur radio parlance, you need to recheck.
I'm rechecking because
Go ahead.
this is the word I have for all the blank show that's going on in the United States right now.
Do that.
As the kids on the internet like to say these days, you're not wrong.
Good grief.
I think Franklin should just be banned for that one.
We're going to ban him from the repeater. I should add that atomic hot sauce on pizza. Oh, a little funny one. Patty made some really great enchiladas the other night. They were fabulous. And I'm expecting a little warmth, a little spice. And it's like I made chili. Now, I'm the guy that don't do hot stuff. She's the hot stuff liker.
Used to not do stuff hot.
I made some chili that could like make your temples sweat. And she's like, well, they're kind of hot. And I'm like, there's nothing even hot about these.
I like spice that adds flavor,
Oh yeah.
but if it just adds a lot of heat, then
I
you
dumped
start
an
losing.
entire can of green chilies in the topping, and I could have gone for 2. Is what he's telling me.
She
That's-
could have.
it depends on how hot
She
the
could
chili
have.
is.
They were good though. I ain't gonna lie.
Like, stop teasing me. It's supposed to be hot.
But we haven't even figured out what we're gonna cook for our next week of leftovers. So
We still have stir fry. We still have pork stir fry left.
there is so little of that is gonna get you one day. So we're gonna have to come up with some food.
Okay, well, we need to have leftovers for lunch tomorrow and clean the pans and start over. We'll figure it out.
So, well,
You always
guys,
Yes,
we
we do.
had a great show, and
Oh,
I
good.
appreciate you putting up with my presentation. I hope you guys liked it.
I learned a lot. Thank you.
So, hopefully that the second half was supposed to be a video, but it hasn't got there yet. And I was gonna do it somewhat at the at boot camp, but I think I was just gonna let it go because I don't want to do anything too in depth. We're not gonna go there. We want to just get folks started, and expect some videos. We're gonna have some video on the Southwest Missouri Amateur Radio Club page of some of the highlights, or if not all of the boot camp, so that anyone who's new to amateur radio and needs a good starting point, that's going to be it. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be kind of fun. And Rodney, the news on the HDMI fix was a different computer.
Ah,
It's whatever happened.
If you recall, when I was using that computer, I was complaining the USB ports, etc., were being kind of flaky. Well, I've just come to the conclusion, watching him mess with this thing, that the motherboard is dying.
Well, actually, that
So
computer has the option of a NVIDIA video card, and it wasn't put in that one. I mean, and it was an optional thing. Didn't come with all of them. So I saw one on eBay for like $25. It's not really a big thing to put it in, and then we might as well change the fan while we're in there, and it should be back to running the way it's supposed to. But the USB ports was just dirty.
So what is it using now? Like an integrated chipset for the graphics?
Yeah, it's
Is it one of the Intel ones?
Intel something 4000.
See, I'm not really great on the integrated graphics chipsets, but I do know at one point, at least according to Apple, like, you probably all think, oh, he just bases everything off of Apple. But Apple would dislike them so much that they were putting dedicated graphics cards in even the cheapy MacBooks, the like the consumer level MacBook, because they just hated the way that the integrated chipsets were doing. I've heard they've gotten a ton better than what they were when they first started putting them out. But it was to the point Apple said, we don't want them. And Intel said, well, if you don't want to buy them with our chips, you won't buy our CPUs. And Apple's just like, okay, we'll just go ahead and put a dedicated card in with them anyway. So
Yeah,
I guess that kind of solved the issue. But
that's probably going to be the big fix to get HDMI back on it. I will say this: if you guys notice in the bottom, our little video that's playing in the corner of the logo, I did that editing with that computer, which is her cast-off old one, and it'll process videos almost as fast as it'll play it. So it's got some good points. I'm not going to abandon it.
maybe it's just the I/O then.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
and where it's sitting
probably.
right now, I don't need
Probably.
HDMI because I will never be able to put a second monitor in that place. So that's fine.
So it does have a hybrid drive in it, and it is a rocket ship. So it I was just ready for an upgrade and was frustrated with some of the mechanical issues going on, and I didn't have time to go through and do what it needed for maintenance. So,
But I
but
went up
this
there
one's
with
two
that
and a half
little.
years, 2 years old now.
It is a $55 Dell, and that includes $40 worth of solid state drive that I bought, and it is the virtual identical thing, except it's a 14-inch screen. I took it up there to Jordan's and plugged it in, and it just worked. I'm like,
Oh, that's cool.
that's the way it should be. Even the sound just worked. So that's nice. You shouldn't have those kind of problems. But anyway, at least we did get it sorted out, and I don't have to run the presentation on Windows.
You have that option.
Not
That's
portable.
about as likely him running it on Windows as me running it on Windows.
He doesn't want to take my computer because he knows if he drops and breaks it, what he'll have to face when he comes home.
I
That's
don't
what
want to
it
do
is.
it.
Oh.
You know,
Sound effects again.
yeah, it's
Yeah, see,
but
the neighbors will be calling the cops. Hey, I've got a woman beating a guy in the yard across my street. Can you send an officer, please? I
It'll
think she's
happen
gonna
so
hurt
quick there won't be witnesses.
Kieran's like, he's not even home. He's not
And
home.
we would just get the call and just say, "Oh no, it's fine."
it's
It's fine.
another feral housewife.
Yep, it'll happen so fast there won't be witnesses.
Yep. So, well, anyway, long ending, and I'll go ahead and jump in and say that I want to thank everybody for joining. Like and subscribe, please. We appreciate that. It helps us out. And so, whoever's next, go ahead.
And-
If you don't mind, if I could go next, because I'm going to have to make a trip here in just a second. I just wanted to say I hope everyone enjoyed the show. I had a great time. 73s to everyone. Look forward to doing it again next week. And I'll go ahead and turn it over to Patty.
All right. Again, thank you all for joining us. We hope you enjoyed what we had to present and learned something along the way. If you have any questions about getting into amateur radio, you can go to either smarc.org or you can send an email to contact.smarc.org, I believe. Contact at smarc.org. Or if you're interested in joining us
at smarc.net. I think I don't know. Now I'm gonna have to go find out.
Steve, is it contact or contact us?
Well, you can use the contact us link, but I think it's just contact at SMIR. I don't know. But use the
Okay.
contact us
Anyway,
link.
There's a link on the page. Make
Yeah.
it easy. Or if you have any questions about Skywarn, you can send that to swmoskywarn@gmail.com, and I personally will be glad to answer your questions. So anyway, 73, and be weather aware and enjoy this gorgeous Indian summer.
All right.
Right.
And so I'll go ahead and go next. I just want to thank everybody for coming, and I'll make it short and sweet. 73 from K0FZ. Like, subscribe, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys next week.
And I'll say goodbye as well. Hope you all have fun and hope you learnt something new. And I'll say my goodbyes. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
And see if I can make myself disappear.